This is the engine that I'm putting together for my sidecar, my P3 pre-1962 P3 road racing sidecar, which I've run a little bit so far. Basically I've run it with that barrel, with that head and barrel there. I mean the cases, head and barrel. That 3.0 there I've run before I had a mount in here for a later model ignition. This time round it's getting a modified cover, timing cover, by welding the two together. You've seen me do a video on that, and therefore they will have unit cams in it. These engine cases, in order to swing this Norton crank this time round, they have to be bored. Well, I like to bore them anyway, and run the bigger bearing in there and the roller bearing in there, which is that 306 series bearing which the Nortons use. Now you can tell by these long bolts that this is through bolted, and this is barrel, is a ARE aluminium barrel, an American big bore kit, which in this case I've actually increased the liner thickness, bored the barrel out, but actually bore it away from the center so that it gives it a little bit of more meat in here between the cylinders. Maintains a reasonable head gasket in there, and then you just bore your cases to suit, you know, so it's a little bit wider. They get a little bit thinner out to here. There's some goo on this because I've had it together once and not happy with it. I just bolt the barrel down to the base, to the case without a gasket, and it's got a copper head gasket here, as you can see, custom made for that through bolting. So in order to through bolt, what I've done, as you can see, that boss there and the weld around the bottom. So you fill the hole, the original hole, you bore the new hole, put the boss in place, and then weld it all in. So it gets all welded around here and around there and all. And it works pretty good when you're using an aluminium cylinder. Not so much when you're trying to do it with a cast iron cylinder, unless of course it's just doing the quarter mile stuff, you know. If you're running around on the street or the road, then an iron cylinder, original iron cylinder through bolted, might cause them to crack, you know, depending on, see in this case you can see the bolts are wasted from 3/8 down to a little bit less and then back to 3/8 for the bottom, and that helps with a bit of bolt expansion, or extend, you know, they'll extend under heat. But I've found that, you know, the iron cylinder, when you try to do a through bolt, just use it better off with methanol, and then use it only on a, you know, a short time basis. These alloy barrels and the head and the cases all tend to grow together, so your expansion rate is all fairly similar, so it's not usually as big a problem. This head has just been cleaned up. It's had some ports machined, some tapered, internally tapered ports, and then it runs bigger valves, and the squish here is reduced quite a bit. Normally a 750 will have about almost a 1/4 inch wide squish, which is, the squish is the difference between the 71mm bore and the 76mm bore, so it's probably a 3mm squish, I guess, overall 6mm, which is basically just a cutaway at about 30 degrees, and then everything from as it's crushing up in the combustion chamber, when the piston's coming to top, it forces everything into the middle. Tends to give things a little bit better mix. So basically I ran this with a 750 crank in it last time, with the plates on the side to give it some strength. It's an old T110 case, which should be okay. The breather now is at the back here. Well, that was always there because I had a distributor housing in here and running a thing, so I'm just going to stay that way. Like I say, the points will be up front with this cover. Now the crank is a Norton crank, and therefore the Norton bearings. The high capacity ball bearing in there, which is an 11 ball 6306. That shim there is just to help it clear the case a little bit better. With the Norton crank cheeks, the centre is a new one piece, not a one piece, but a new plate which is actually a 0.625 or 5/8 thick plate, just normal mild steel. The counterweights are then made to, you can see the counterweights on the crank, and then drilling and stuff for balancing, and then there's a little bit of, just there you can see there's a bit of heavy metal on both cheeks, slightly forward or slightly reverse to centre, or back and centre, and that what I try to do is get any of these offsets anywhere between 70 and 90 degrees. About a 50% balance factor, somewhere between 48 and 52. This one is balanced at 50, using these MAP steel conrods. They're they're just a normal big bore kit, plus 40. So plus 40 is 77 mil. So on the Norton crank and the plus 40 bore, that's 828, which is the same as a 850 Norton now, over instead of what was a 650 years ago. So that's using Norton cheeks, a custom made centre at about 6 inches, maybe a little bit, no, it's about 6 inches. The first set of cams I tried to run wouldn't clear the crankshaft properly, so I've actually gone to a slightly different set of cams. Waiting on them being made actually, before I can do another final or do another go at it. The head's been decked a couple of times. The compression is, with those pistons, is up around 10 1/4 to 1 now, I believe. Anyway, so this is where I'm at. This is my 90 270 828 pre-unit sidecar engine. The sidecar itself has been copping a fair bit of bloody treatment too, to the steering head, and building Earl's forks for it and everything, so hopefully I'll get the thing to steer a bit better and maybe pull out of the corners a bit better with this bigger engine. Only time will tell. So that's a pre-unit 828 90 270, or the modern factories, some people call them 270 90, either way they fire in 2 different phases, and I don't care, I just go by the short number, 90 degree, because that's the crankshaft offset. You can see this right hand side leads that left hand side by 90 degrees, so good enough in my book. And without a counterbalancer, trying to find a balance, all the modern engines of course are fairly smooth because they can run counterbalancers. You don't have that option with all this old stuff, so trying to get it to run a bit smoother. 50% tends to go somewhere near the money, but we'll find out. Anyway, thanks for watching.